Hey guys, this is Marilyn Girl. I was talking with some of my friends this week about Candace Owens because one of them sent a video that she did recently. It was an interview about, what's wrong with modern women, and she was talking about feminism, and my friend was asking for my thoughts on it. And I told her, I was like, I've seen Candace Owens videos before, and I'm not 100% a fan of her. I agree with some of the stuff that she says, but I really don't like how she really downplays the issue of racism in the country. And so my friend, I guess she's not really familiar with Candace Owens, and so I was like, well, I've seen her videos before and I know that she does this on a regular basis. But since my friend doesn't really have any previous experience seeing her speak, she wasn't really sure what I was talking about. So fast forward to this morning, I'm looking at YouTube, and in my recommendations is this video that Godfrey, the comedian, did, where he is reacting to a video that Candace Owens is in, where she is on Tucker Carlson's show and she's reacting to the verdict of the Derek Chauvin trial, him being guilty on all three counts. And obviously Godfrey was, ticked off at what she was saying, but I was like, I have to show this to my friends because this is exactly what I was talking about. You want to see an example of this woman who I otherwise agree with, just pandering to racist white people. This is a prime example. So there's all kinds of police body cam footage, there's witness cell phone video recordings of this police officer killing this man. They have him, he's pinned down on the ground, his knee is on his neck, and he kills this man. And Candace Owens is saying, a few things. Basically, one, she doesn't believe that it was a fair trial. She's frustrated because they didn't show the full police video, or they didn't show, the full body cam footage, and they were hiding it, from the trial, and they didn't let people see it. She mentions that she said, George Floyd had 3 times the lethal dosage of fentanyl in his system, insinuating that he died of a drug overdose and that that's what killed him, not, being suffocated, being pinned to the ground, for several minutes, when he was saying he couldn't breathe. No, he died of a drug overdose, according to her. And then she, her big complaint is that the trial wasn't really about justice. It was about mob rule, and the Democrats promoting a certain narrative. And that was her takeaway. So I went, and of course I wanted to see the full video clip for myself, because for me, I'm one of those people that it's important for me to see context, right? So I actually saw 2 clips of her explaining her position on the trial, and I'm going to play that. I'm going to play those clips for you, and then I'm going to come back. And we're going to address the issue. Does Candace Owens actually believe what she even says? I am of the opinion that she does not, and I'm gonna show you some of the things that she said in the past to prove that she does not even believe what she's saying herself. But for right now, I just want to share these clips with you. You may have seen them, or you may not have seen them. I don't watch Tucker Carlson's show, so unless somebody brings this to my attention, I'm not gonna know about it. But let me show you these clips, and then I'll come back.
So the guy dies on the sidewalk, and here this lady comes out and politicizes it so completely that he becomes sort of Democratic Party saint. Thank you for your sacrifice. This is grotesque. It's a cult, obviously. But what does it mean for the rest of us who have to live here under the leadership of people like that? Candace Owens is the host of Candace. We're happy to have her on tonight to assess what we're watching now. Candace Owens, you'd think in a country like ours, very top, this is the most first world country that's ever been. You'd think the most civilized and the most just. Here you have to consider a murder case through the lens of politics. When you get to that point, haven't you already given up civilization?
That's correct. And what we're really seeing is mob justice. And that's really what happened with this entire trial. This was not a trial about George Floyd or Derek Chauvin. This was a trial about whether the media was powerful enough to create a simulation and decide upon a narrative absent any facts. Whether it was powerful enough to repeat showing and talking about a 9-minute clip that came from somebody's cell phone without adding any context, without showing the full, the full police video, which they could have released. They refused to release the full body cam, which would have added more clarity to the fact that the media was lying. The media came out. Let's not forget this, Tucker. The media came out and told us that this was a man who was just getting his life together. He was a good member of society, and he got mixed up because a racist white police officer had it out for him and killed him. All of that fell apart. All of the facts came out, and all of that fell apart. We now know, of course, that he had enough fentanyl in him. It was 3 times the lethal dosage, 3 times lethal dosage in him when he died. But nobody cares because the media was successful in putting out a narrative, and they kept hitting that narrative. And the reason why the Democrats are happy is because they realize, of course, the media supports them. And now means the Democrats can get whatever they want because they can create a narrative, and then they can treat people like pawns and get them to basically say, if we don't get what we want, we will riot, we will loot, we will send these people out like soldiers to destroy your neighborhoods. And that is exactly what has happened. That has been the determination of this trial. The media and the Democrats now have enough power to bully and to lie to and to create propaganda and to successfully win. And that is what happened. And they are celebrating that win today. This was not a fair trial.
Only one side.
No person can say this was a fair trial.
Candace joining us. Your thoughts on the guilty verdict, guilty on all charges?
It's the wrong verdict, in my opinion. And I think that it's indicative of the fact that we now live in mob rule. This is mob rule society. Yeah. I mean, this is based on the evidence that we saw, and this was polluted from start to finish. So to me, the most important element of this, which I found to be astonishing, was the fact that they never released the full police footage. They had it, they sat on it, They locked it down. It leaked months and months later after the riots, via the Daily Mail, I think. But when I watched the full tape, I was astonished that they didn't think to just at least add this context so that people understood, yes, this person was high out of his mind. He asked to be put on the ground. He was resisting arrest. Let's not forget what they did, the power they had in setting up this narrative to begin with. First, the media said he was just getting his life together. Do you remember St. George?
Yeah, they do this
you guys
all the
remember
time,
St. George, right? He was just getting his life together. He had moved to Minnesota. Yes, he was, had been in prison in the past, but he was just helping the youth. And everyone was crying, and it was, oh my gosh, this man is, was getting a second chance at life, and, maybe had the wrong ID or whatever it was using counterfeit bills, and somebody called the police, and then he was killed. He was brutally murdered on the basis of him being black. No indication. Nothing was said out of Derek Chauvin's mouth that, should insinuate that this was about being black versus white, but that was what the media ran with. And then they successfully hid every piece of evidence that would have transformed public opinion, right? Every piece of evidence that would have said, wait a second, there's more here. And they were upset when I released a video and just went over his track record, because it was clear to me, according to his track record, that it was very unlikely that a person that spends, approximately 9 stints in prison was really just getting his life together after having served the last one. So, to me, I think the saddest part of this is that what we need to acknowledge is that right now, mob rules. The media creates the mob, and the mob rules, and that's what we just saw play out.
Okay, so as of April 20th of this week, that is Candace Owens' take on the Derek Chauvin trial. It was a sham. It wasn't fair. There were no facts. I don't know how you have a 3-week trial and there's no facts. I don't know how she has that opinion. But that's what she's saying. There's no facts. They didn't show the full police body cam footage. Look, they showed enough footage. They showed CCTV footage. They showed multiple body cam footage. Look, let's see if we can find, because when you listen to Candace Owens, you have to fact check her. Okay, she's gonna rattle off a lot of statistics. She's gonna rattle off, her fake facts. And so when you're done listening to her, you're gonna have to fact check her. Okay, did they show body cam footage? Did they show full body cam footage? Because it's missing the context. They didn't show that he was high, or that he was, drunk, or what, that he was under the influence of, other substances. And what would that have done? Shown, that context would have somehow changed the fact that he was pinned to the ground for 9 minutes. Would I mean, the context wouldn't change that, but they did release a lot of body cam footage, and the body cam footage does provide the context that Candace Owens is saying was missing. So there, let's see this article, March 31st, 2021. Prosecutors show body cam footage from police encounter with George Floyd. On day 3 of the Derek Chauvin murder trial, prosecutors showed jurors video from several police body cameras worn by officers during their encounter with George Floyd. Okay, so, I mean, it sounds like there was plenty of video evidence that was provided for this trial. But I guess, that doesn't count for Candace Owens. Let's see. George Floyd had 3 times the lethal dosage of fentanyl in his system. Okay, so I found an article on USA Today just discussing this idea that seems to be floating around that George Floyd's death was a drug overdose. And so the USA Today article addresses this. And they mentioned that there were 2 autopsies done. And what do they say? Despite video evidence of Chauvin kneeling on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes, a viral social media post claims Floyd's death was the result of a drug overdose. That's me reading the article. And I'm just going to scroll down. Now, let's see. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office ruled Floyd's death was a homicide caused by cardiopulmonary arrest, complicated by restraint and neck compression while being subdued by police. Medical examiner Andrew Baker testified that the way officers held Floyd down and compressed his neck while restraining him was just more than Floyd could take given the condition of his heart. Similarly, an independent autopsy commissioned by Floyd's family ruled asphyxiation from sustained pressure was the cause of Floyd's death. Floyd family attorney Benjamin Crump said at a press conference June 2020, Dr. Michael Baden and Dr. Alesha Wilson performed the autopsy, finding there was neck and back compression that led to a lack of blood flow to the brain. What else? Dr. Martin Tobin, a pulmonologist, I cannot pronounce that word, and critical care specialist of Loyola University Medical Center, also testified during the trial that Floyd died of a lack of oxygen from being pinned to the pavement with a knee on his neck. He added, a healthy person subjected to what Mr. Floyd was subjected to would have died. Further down in the article, it says, in bold, experts agree Floyd did not die of overdose. While findings from Floyd's autopsy revealed 11 nanograms per milliliter of fentanyl in his blood, medical experts called as prosecution witnesses agreed the amount of fentanyl was not enough to be considered fatal. So, I don't know, all of that sounds like facts to me. That sounds like they presented experts. They presented medical evidence. They discussed the findings of 2 autopsies. So, what exactly is Candace Owens talking about here? What is she talking about? She says, yes, the trial wasn't about justice. It was about mob rule and promoting a certain narrative. I'm not going to lie. I will admit this, and I feel like we all know this. Because there's so much racial injustice in this country, and there's been so many instances where Black people have been killed, unarmed Black people have been killed, and there wasn't justice. And we've seen it again and again and again, that when that happens, people riot. There's peaceful protests, and then there's peaceful protests that get hijacked by rioters and looters, and we know that happens. We just, we know how that happens. And so I'm sure we all kind of knew if there is not justice brought in this trial, we knew what would happen. No one needs to say anything. It doesn't need to be a threat. You just know if you guys do not, bring justice in this case, people are going to be angry at you, and rightfully so. When you have several videos showing this man killing this person who was already handcuffed, who was not resisting arrest when he was on the ground. There was just no cause for this whatsoever. So yeah, that was going to happen. But do I buy this idea that the outcome of the trial is the result of mob justice, that they got this verdict wrong? Absolutely not. I don't believe that. And you know who else doesn't believe that? Candace Owens doesn't believe that. She 100% doesn't believe that. And I often watch videos that she does where she's parroting these white nationalist talking points. And I'm like, do you even believe what you're saying? You know, when it's just you in your house at night by yourself, there's no cameras. How do you feel about the things that you're saying? Do you actually believe the words that are coming out of your mouth? I truly don't believe that she does. She has made an entire career out of lying to white people and downplaying the reality of racism to make them feel better about their racism or their racial bias or their blind spots or just their lack of empathy towards people of other races. And I think sometimes she actually does believe what she says when she's speaking on certain topics. Yes, she does have valid things to say, but on issues of race relations, I think she's lying, and she'll say whatever she wants to say in the moment that will just get her a paycheck. And I'm going to prove it to you. Last year, when, there were all of these protests, and it was right after, George Floyd had been killed, and these videos were released. In June, Candace Owens took a lot of heat for posting a video on her Facebook page. She has a public Facebook page. Anyone can go on her Facebook page and see this video that I'm referencing. And she's saying she does not support George Floyd. You can go on her Facebook page. It's a video. It's untitled. It's dated June 3rd, 2020. And as of today, it has like 95 million views. And in that video that people were really pissed off about, she made 3 points. 1, that George Floyd should not have been killed. Point 2, that the cop who killed him should be brought to justice. And point 3, which is the part that people hated her for, that we shouldn't be turning George Floyd into like an angel, like a saint, because he had a lengthy criminal record. So yes, acknowledge that his death was unfortunate. He shouldn't have been killed. Yes, the cop, Derek Chauvin, should be brought to justice, but let's not go so far as to pretend that this guy was an angel. Let's just acknowledge the facts. He was killed. He shouldn't have been killed. Let's bring the cop to justice. And she reiterated those first 2 points multiple times just so that people wouldn't mistake her point and saying that, just because he had a criminal record, are you saying that it was okay that he was killed and that the cop was justified in killing him? And so to that, she says no, repeatedly. That's not the point she's making. So this was her in June of last year saying these things. And I am going to play clips from that video. I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's 18 minutes long, but I just wanted to let you know where you can find that video so that you can see what she's saying in context. But I'm just going to play some key points for you so that you can hear her, and I want you to compare what she says in that video from last June to what she said on Fox News to Tucker Carlson and these other people. Just pay attention to how her narrative has changed, okay? Okay, just a heads up. So I know I said this was an 18-minute video. I'm going to be looking at the sections of that video that are from 2 minutes and 34 seconds to 2 minutes and 49 seconds. There's another clip that's from 3:35 to 3:57. There's another clip that's from 5:02 to 5:10. And then the last clip is from 8:58 to about 9:30. So those are the sections that I'm going to play. In case you want to go back and watch her original video, you can know like where to just skip around to. But I just wanted to set that up for you.
Hello, Facebook family. I have decided to do this video. It has been weighing very heavily on my heart and on my mind as well. And it was something that I wanted to say early on, but there were so many emotions and so much pressure for me to go with the popular opinion about who George Floyd was. And sometimes it can be difficult when there are just so many external pressures to say what you believe. And this was an instance where I felt like my silence would have been better in the beginning, but the more that I think about it, I realize that we are being sold a lot of lies, and at the detriment to the Black community, at the detriment to the white community, and at the detriment to America as a whole. So I want to come out and say that I do not support George Floyd and the media depiction of him as a martyr for Black America. I'm going to explain why, and I hope that some of you guys will understand where I'm coming from. Even if, and I want to be very clear, what I'm saying is not any defense for Derek Chauvin. I hope Derek Chauvin gets the justice that he deserves to be, implemented upon him, and that the family of George Floyd deserves justice for the way that he died. But I also am not going to accept the narrative that this is the best the Black community has to offer. For whatever reason, it has become fashionable over the last 5 or 6 years for us to turn criminals into heroes overnight. And it is something that I find to be despicable, and it is something that I refuse to stand by any longer, and I am not going to play a part in it, no matter how much pressure comes from Black liberals and Black conservatives. And as soon as this video hit the internet, I did just basic searches. Everyone jumped on it and was looking at the police officer, and everyone agrees that the police officer was wrong, and the police officer has been arrested. So that is not the reason I'm not discussing that, is because that is not something that has been misconstrued in the media. He has been turned into the devil that he is, and there is no reason for us to harp on that any longer, because white Americans are not uplifting Derek Chauvin as a victim or pretending that he's an amazing human being. He had drugs on him at the time of his arrest. Now, barring all of that, nobody thinks that he should have died during this arrest, but what I find despicable to be is that everyone is pretending that this man lived a heroic lifestyle and so in my opinion, George Floyd was a criminal. He was a criminal, and just because he was a criminal doesn't mean he deserved to die at the knee of a police officer, but it does mean that I am not going to play a part of the broken Black culture that always wants to martyr criminals who want it. Now, again, I want to be clear. This is not a defense for Derek Chauvin. No one that I have spoken to, no one in the news is defending Derek Chauvin. He is getting what he has coming to him. Okay, great. But why are we pretending that this criminal should be upheld as a citizen, as a martyr in Black America? A martyr for a fake narrative, by the way. Police brutality, racially motivated police brutality is a myth. Now, did he deserve to die in that manner? No. I can't say it enough. No, he didn't deserve to die in that manner.
Okay, so is anybody hearing what I just heard? I mean, did you not hear her totally contradict what she just said this week on Fox News and on TV? This week, she's saying the trial was, bogus. It wasn't a fair trial. I think they came out with the wrong verdict. I think this is just the narrative from the left and mob rule. That's April 2021. But June 3rd of 2020, she's repeatedly saying, I'm not saying that he should have died. I'm not saying that I'm defending Derek Chauvin. He's being painted as the devil that he is, and he deserves justice, and I hope his family gets justice. And I mean, she doesn't believe even what she's saying. The Candace Owens of June of 2020 would look at the Candace Owens of April 2021 and say, what are you talking about? You don't even believe the BS that you're spewing. Why are you on Tucker Carlson's show lying to white people? Why are you doing this? Why are you why are you doing this, Candace Owens? Why? Why are you aligning yourself with these people? Why are you being a useful tool for them and their community to make them feel better? I don't understand this. So, but you hear the inconsistency there? Do you hear her say the complete opposite of what she just said? It's ridiculous. She does not, I have said this before. I'm like, I don't believe she believes what she's actually saying. And we have video proof. She doesn't even believe it. You know, she will say what she's going to get paid to say. You know, she will advance whatever narrative is expedient at the moment. And I think what we heard in June of last year is how she really feels, you know, and what we heard this week on TV is what she's getting paid to say, you know. So here's my larger problem with Candace Owens. I actually mentioned her without naming her specifically in my earlier video that I did on Black people are not a monolith. Are you sure? I was talking about her, but I didn't name her. And I was saying, you know, I don't think that there's a problem when people have, you know, different views, because I'm one of those people. And I'm one of those people that often gets called, you know, an Uncle Tom or a sellout. And people actually call me Candace Owens when I voice an opinion that, you know, is not shared by the larger Black community. They're like, oh, who are you, Candace Owens? And I'm like, no, I'm not her. And the reason I take offense to that is because, and I don't use this term lightly, because I do believe that it's overused. Candace Owens is literally a sellout. She gets paid to gaslight people about the reality of racism and the dangers of white nationalism. You know, it's one thing to have unpopular ideas, to challenge your own community to do better. And sometimes, like I said, I agree with her on certain subjects. And that's why people will call me her. But, you know, she's well-spoken, she presents well, and she's confident. And I think she could use her platform and her voice solely to promote truth and causes that she actually believes in. But instead, she uses her talents to tell white people that they're not racist and that racism is not a problem in this country. Despite the fact that people from other countries looking in can clearly see the racism for what it is. And in 2016, Candace Owens was herself a Democrat who clearly recognized the problems within the movement that she's now promoting and now defending. You know, I haven't seen a video, and I've tried to figure out, like, when did she change? Like, when did she go from being a Democrat to being, you know, a conservative and like ardent Trump supporter? Because she was anti-Trump. I haven't seen a video where she explains why or how she had a change of beliefs, how she went from being a critic of the last president to one of his supporters. Like, how did that happen? So I don't buy it. When she's pointing out areas within the Black community that need improvement, you know, like the need for Black families to be stronger and more stable, you know, have a mother, a father that are married to each other, raising their kids together. Like, I'm on board with that. You know, when Candace Owens is speaking on those types of issues, I think she does have valid points to make, and I agree with her. When, you know, like the video clip I told you my friend sent me this week where she was talking about feminism, you know, there were certain things that she said in that video that I agreed with. I didn't agree with everything she said, but I thought she did have some good points that she made. So I'm not saying that she's 100%, like she's wrong 100% of the time. She does have valid things to say. And I wish that she would just stick to those topics and not venture into covering for white nationalists, you know, especially since those people and those organizations that she's covering for, they're just using her, you know, so that they can pretend that they're not racist, because they are being co-signed by a Black woman. So yeah, they get to say, yeah, we're not racist and our ideas aren't offensive. These are perfectly, fine beliefs to have. Look, we have this black woman. She's intelligent. She's well-spoken and she agrees with us. So we're not racist. The problem isn't us. No, the problem is you. It definitely is. Another major issue that I have with Candace Owens is that, yes, she presents well. Yes, she's well-spoken and she can spit out a lot of statistics. But that doesn't mean that what she's saying is actually true. She has mastered the art of fast talking and almost filibustering on any given topic. And it looks and it sounds impressive. But if you actually go back and fact check her, you can find out that her statements were peppered with lies. Like, she's big on image, but low on substance. But in the moment, she seems smart and like a real force to be reckoned with because her sound bites are effective. And in America, the person with the better sound bites is the one that wins, even if they're wrong, right? That's all that matters. So, like, moving forward, I don't know what, this is my hope. I would like to see this happen. I would hope in the near future, that she has a change of heart and stops taking money to promote ideas that she doesn't even believe herself. Because honestly, she's really just damaging her own credibility. And she's also possibly misleading some young Black people who don't have a lot of life experience, who haven't been around long enough to know that the people that she's encouraging them to associate with are dangerous and really don't have their best interests at heart. And if one day she actually does, have a change of heart, I honestly, I don't know who's gonna still listen to her and take her seriously after she's been selling out her people for a paycheck. Really, she needs to be prepared to get the Stacey Dash treatment. But having said that, the sooner the better. Like, today is always a good day to start telling the truth, even if people are going to be pissed at you because you spent years lying and selling them out. I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't start over today, right? I hope that regardless of the backlash that's definitely in store for her whenever that day is, that she does it anyway, The Bible says, what good does it do for a man to gain the world and lose his soul? So to Candace Owens, I would say, you're getting paid, but what about your integrity? Like, what, at what cost are you promoting these ideas? I mean, it's just food for thought. So those are my thoughts about Candace Owens and in general, and her reaction, her paid reaction to the Derek Chauvin trial. I think behind closed doors, I think she knows that justice was done because she said so herself in June of last year. And I think, if it was one of her family members and that there was a 9-minute cell phone video of them being, pinned to the ground with her family member saying repeatedly that they can't breathe, whether they had a history of, drug use or whether they were currently on drugs or whether they had been in and out of prison, I think she would say, as we are all saying, that is irrelevant in the moment. What should happen in those situations is that a man is, or it could be a woman, but whoever, the person is arrested, taken to the police station and processed. People have due process rights, and I always remember seeing, I don't even know if I've seen this movie all the way through, but A Time to Kill. And I remember Matthew McConaughey's character finishing, his closing arguments with saying, "Now imagine she's white." And it's sad, but you have to say that to some people. You have to say, because some people lack empathy. You know, racist white people lack empathy for people that don't look like them. But if you say that to them, imagine if this was a white person, how would you feel? Then they can understand, oh, if it was someone who looked like me, yeah, this would be a problem. You know, if George Floyd had been white, you know, how would Tucker Carlson feel about this outcome? How would all of the people on Fox News feel? How would Candace Owens feel? I have a feeling that she would feel the same way she did today that she felt in June of last year, you know? So let's imagine that George Floyd was white, and that I think will help some people have a clearer view of the ethics surrounding his death and the ethics surrounding the outcome of the Derek Chauvin trial. So that's what I have to say about that. And I hope you guys take care. And if I need to do another video on another topic that comes up, you will hear my voice again. All right. See ya.